The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Please say good morning and welcome to the radio show. And the work that these people are doing in this quest for Barack Obama's life story. Her name is Linda Jordan. And Miss Jordan, good morning and welcome to the birther home in Colorado. I'm Peter Boyles, as you know, and welcome to 710 KNUS.
Good morning, Peter. Thank you for having me on the show.
It's my pleasure. A little bit about your background, and then I ask the musical question, who is Barack Obama?
Okay. Well, I will tell you a little bit about myself. I am a homemaker from Washington State. I'm a pretty ordinary woman. I've been married 35 years, and I've raised 3 children. I do not have a law degree from Harvard like Barack Obama purportedly does. In fact, I did not even graduate from high school. But I'm not so dumb that this man can tell me bald-faced lies and get away with it.
I love it.
My children rarely got away with it, and I'm not going to let him get away with it if there's anything I can do about it. So that's why I got involved in researching his ever-changing life story, because he started lying to me, and I knew he was not telling me the truth, and that raises red flags for me and should for all of us.
I agree.
Someone who lies like that is hiding something, and they're up to no good.
Here's the other morning, yesterday morning, in fact, we had Susan Daniels with us, who I love, and she's chasing the SSN number.
Yes.
And I said to Susan, who I love, and I said, Susan, who is Barack Obama? And she answered it the way I answer it. I don't know.
Exactly. I do not know who he is. No one can say that they know who he is because there have been so many lies. And the first one for me was when he said that the only reason he knew terrorist Bill Ayers was because their children attended the same school.
Guy from the neighborhood.
Yes. Well, Ayers' children are 23 years older than Obama's.
Yeah. So
to me, that kind of whopper of a lie told on a national stage, like a presidential campaign, that says to me he's pathological, that he can go.
I ask people where they're, they call it the trigger point, when you realize that this thing is a scam, and your moment came with the Ayers story?
Absolutely, it did. But what really scared me was the fact that the MSM, the mainstream media, ignored the lie.
Yeah.
And that's when I knew our country is in real trouble here.
I started when the Democrats nominated him, and we started hearing from people, and I was in Denver, and we started hearing from people that he's not who he says he is. And of course, he was totally endorsed here in town. They took it over to some buddy, and they I guess might have been Pelosi or Boxer or somebody, and they gave it the green light, and then it starts to sneak out that this guy's life story is so screwed up, and then you start reading about it, and I start reading about suppression of documents.
Yes.
And then it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. And tomorrow on the radio show, and I'm sure you're more than familiar, tomorrow on the radio show, we're going to relook at Frank Marshall Davis. The Paul Kengore's book is out. The communist Frank Marshall Davis, the untold story of Barack Obama. So there are people, and I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about Corley, but there are more and more and more people who are, as we say, coming to the dance, aren't there?
Absolutely. I really feel that's true, which is why I just have this kind of urgency to keep pushing and persevering to get the truth out there. And like you said, there are so many good, ordinary citizens researching, making use of the Internet, and researching and finding out facts here and there that start to paint a picture of who this person is, and it's not a pretty picture.
Well, no,
I heard about Susan Daniels.
Sure.
She did her Social Security number research, and that's the second stage of my involvement. She was so brave, what she did. She's an upstanding woman, a very well-known private investigator out of Ohio, like you said, and she does work for lawyers every day that's used in courts all the time to catch bad guys who are committing, crimes. And so she was hired to investigate Obama's background. And red flags immediately came up for her. She's a professional. When she saw that he had a Social Security number issued out of Connecticut to someone with a Connecticut address when he was 12 years old living in Hawaii, which we do know he was there at that time, 1977. She just said this guy's a criminal. He's got fake ID. He's got fake ID, and if it were anyone else in the world, that information would have been taken, and somebody would have to do some explaining. That never happened. And I'm past the point of wondering why. I'm sure we all did. Wow, how could this happen? How could it happen? Enough. Now it's time for us to say, it did happen. What are you going to do about it, Peter, Linda, Susan? What are we going to do about it? Are we going to let him get away with it? And I do not want to. I have no intention of doing that. So I've started a website, obamasfakeid.com, We the People TV, where I'm asking people to submit their videos to We the People TV and tell Barack Obama that you know what he did. He used fake ID to get on the ballot and into the White House, and he's not going to get away with it. And in my research for my website, I discovered that Judith Corley, Obama's personal lawyer, who purportedly is a necessary preamble to anything Obama. She purportedly flew to Hawaii on April 25th, 2011, and picked up 2 paper photocopies of Obama's real birth certificate from the director of the Hawaii Health Department. Fuddy, yes, who is now mysteriously dead. Picked them up, flew back to Hawaii to Washington, D.C. on the 26th, and delivered them in person to the White House. Don't know to who. And then, as you well know, there was a press conference, a lot of pomp and circumstances on April 27th, 2011, where Obama came out and said, I'm tired of all this silliness. Here's my birth certificate. Now leave me alone. Well, so I thought it curious, why the heck would this woman fly all the way to Hawaii to pick up a forged PDF file? Because that's now it is.
If you're just joining, let me reset so people know who you are. I love people like this, and she will now become part of our radio show. You'll hear her again and again and again. And on the 26th of April, 2011, this woman, Judith Corley, and what's interesting, she's a private sector attorney. Something that was this necessary. He sends her on a commercial flight. She makes a red eye. She goes to Hawaii, and we're led to believe that she just got this envelope from Loretta Fuddy.
Right.
And what I believe is all of this stuff was manufactured by a guy that I have dubbed Jimmy down the hall, because he's the guy that decides that African is a race, which of course it isn't. But what Fuddy does is all she's doing, I think, is offering cover. She flies on this commercial jet. Maybe you think something like this, he would have said, okay, it's time we do this. But he does this secret squirrel routine where the PDF, which is a phony PDF, arrives back in D.C. As I said, he holds a presser and trumpets the arrival of the real birth certificate. And, boy, I remember the Rocky Mountain News. It used to, and Rocky's out of business now, but they had a lead columnist by the name of Mike Litwin. And they were living off of me. They were cartooning me. And then, by God, here was the truth. And, and as soon as you took the PDF, we had a guy come in. He was a computer guy. He unlayered it. Within hours. We knew it was fake.
Didn't matter. Of course, Sheriff Arpaio did his outstanding investigation and has absolutely concluded from a law enforcement perspective, this is a forged fake document, and it never existed in paper form.
Thank you. And one of the things, may I come back to you, that you said that just blew, I'm reading you, and I went, she's right. And I never thought this through, which makes you a really, really smart woman. Why would Judith Corley fly all the way to Hawaii to pick up a forged PDF file when it could have been emailed in seconds to the White House?
Right.
Why?
Right.
And this is the trip. This is how these guys play the game. I want everybody to think, because they used an electronic PDF file to show or purport Barack Obama's birth certificate. Well, they didn't need to send Corley, did they, all the way to Hawaii? They didn't need to pick up this forged PDF. They could have simply emailed it, correct?
Correct. Absolutely.
Man, that was brilliant.
Yes. So I thought, well, let me see. When did she really arrive at the White House? And so I get these WAVE and ARC records, which are Secret Service records for the White House, where you keep track of visitors, who enters the building, who exits, which makes sense, right? You got to know who comes in, and you
Sure.
got to know when they leave. If you don't keep track of when they leave, how do you know they're not hiding in the bathroom?
Exactly.
You know, waiting to do some dirty deed. So I looked through these wave and arc records, which were just made public around 2010, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
And I look up April 26, 2011. Look up Judith Corley. There she is.
Yeah.
She arrived at about 5:11 p.m. Bob Bauer, who was the White House General Counsel at the time, also has worked with Judith Corley at a Perkins Coie for.
That's the law firm. That's where Bauer. I think he's back there now, isn't he?
Yes,
Yeah,
he is.
yeah.
Well, so she, you know, when you have this ARC record, it's a card like you swipe at the bus station or something, has a strip on it, and it tells the Secret Service who this person is, and they have more records like her Social Security number and stuff like that, and because they have to do a background check on everyone that comes in. So you swipe it, and it says what part of the building you entered, and it says what time it is. And so there's also a time of exit and a point of exit. That's also supposed to be registered. And for that day for Judith Corley, it was not registered. So I had some fun with it and said, you know, she disappeared at the White House in 2011. But because Obama is such a liar and his whole entourage are liars for him and on his behalf, everything has to be scrutinized. And it's much harder, as you know, to get to the truth, because we have to deal with all these lies, and we can't trust anything. I mean, if you've known someone who lies in your personal life, you can't trust anything they say.
Well, even the lawyers will say in a courtroom, they say it, lie on one. In other words, you lie on one statement, they consider you a liar on all. But
there you go. And with Obama, because his lies have been so huge, I mean, telling his publisher for 17 years, I was born in Kenya.
Oh, absolutely.
And then changing it at the last second to, oh, no, I was born in Hawaii. So he does whatever suits his mood or his purpose or his plan. And so, you know, I just figured we have to scrutinize everything that he says, everything that they say. I don't know if Judith Corley was there. I know she wasn't delivering two paper photocopies of Barack Obama's birth certificate. I know that for a fact.
Don't you get the sense, and if you're just joining this one woman's wonderful, Linda Jordan, about Obama's lawyer, Judith Corley, and doing the night flight and bringing in the PDF. I mean, this is my theory. And it was interesting yesterday in a private conversation with Susan Daniels when I said to Susan, well, why does the SSN number, why does it make this change? And now he has 042684425 that's exclusively reserved for the residents of Connecticut. And he's done this for 25 years. And her theory is, and it's brilliant, because his Social Security number was one issued to a foreign national, and that he had to drop that. He's got a real Social Security number someplace, but issued to a foreign national. And it's one of the reasons, I mean, all the suppressed grades and all the suppressed. By the way, you know, there's a woman out now who went to high school with him, and she's starting to talk. And
I've heard her.
Yeah.
But you know what, Peter? There's all these fantastical stories that we can supply to figure out who this person is. For me, he's using fake ID.
Oh, yeah, no question.
I mean, and that's a reality. I know that, and he should not be allowed to use fake ID. My son's a deputy sheriff, and he has a high security clearance where he's at. I know what vetting is. I know what lengths they went to with him and have done repeatedly every 3 or 4 years. You know, he could not get into a cheap bar on a Saturday night with this ID. It's so bad. Well, not even if he was a pretty girl. Yeah. I want him to get out of the White House, and I want him to be prosecuted for using fake ID, for election fraud, for getting on the ballot with a fake name, a fake Social Security number, a fake birth certificate, for usurping the White House. You know, it's not okay. He's denigrating the rule of law. Well, and all.
What's interesting?
You know, chaos breaks loose when that happens, and we can't allow it to happen. No. So we, the people, need to get up there and stop it, because obviously no one else who's supposed to is doing their job.
Well, Joel Gilbert's great line to the Washington Press Club, he said there's a Pulitzer Prize for anybody in this room. All you got to do is reach out. And
You know, I heard that.
yeah, it's true.
You say that yesterday. Now, who's Joe Gilbert?
Joe Gilbert made the film Dreams from My Real Father, and that's what I'm saying. I think there has to be, and I actually thought about this, there has to be maybe, I don't know what you would call it, a seminar, and I'd love to do it in Denver and do it on the radio, of all people like yourself and, you know, and Gilbert and Jack Cashill, and I go down a list of people, Judith, obviously, then Susan Daniel, and you go and get all these people together and say, exchange information. They do it all times in academia. They bring guys in and they have, you know, presentations of papers and panel discussions.
Right.
And I, honest to God, I mean, I've been kicking that around about doing it forever, and maybe the time has come, but because the information is so overwhelming. Now, I realize that Brian Williams is not going to lead the nightly news with it, but I mean, just for people that really quest the white whale, you know, almost like Ahab.
Yes, I think that's an excellent idea, and I'm finding all the time I get introduced to someone by somebody else, and they've gone down a road that I thought we should go down of research, and they've already done it. So it would be good if we could all get together. I know that when I did my E-Verify research, I don't know if you know this, but I determined I was one of Obama's employers, and I registered with the government-run system E-Verify
he couldn't pass it,
find out if he was eligible to work in the United States.
He's not.
And I ran it, and he failed E-Verify, and his number came back flagged with a special indicator code for fraud.
He couldn't pass. He couldn't pass
it.
No, I know.
And this was affirmed again. He couldn't register for Obamacare because his numbers and his names don't match up. His birth date, his name, his Social Security numbers, they don't match.
Yeah. Well, the Connecticut number, and, you know, was the fellow that was born, and then he gets this number later because he needs his benefits. He was born in 1890. Birth certificate date for Barack Obama's birth is 4 August 61. I mean, it's impossible. Barack Obama uses an SSN 042684425 reserved for residents of Connecticut and has done so consistently for the past 25 years. Now they cover it up. Now you can't see that, but there's, I mean...
That's true. Once I did the Verify people tried to replicate the next day and could not do it. You know what, Peter? I wanted to launch this off my website. I think it'd be fantastic to raise some reward money for the owner of Connecticut Social Security number 042.
He's dead. I mean, he's dead.
I would love to place huge newspaper ads in Connecticut and just say, we're looking for the owner of this number. If it's you could be $10,000 richer.
Yeah, most people believe that they know who the guy is and that he was here. He was born in Belgium. He comes to the country, and later in his life, he's been paying SSN, but he does it, and he asks for, because he wants his benefits.
And that very well could be, but it could be that he has a family member that knows what his number was.
That's well said too. Let me come back to this. My theory that what Judith Corley did was take a plane ride, and that's just about all she did. That they gave the assignment, because they can't let it out to a pro because a pro might talk, but they give it to the kid that I call Jimmy down the hall. Now Jimmy is so politically correct that he can't dare say Negro or anything that
so we know what time period he was raised in because of that.
Yeah, so he says father's race African. Well, Saddam Hussein is an African, Anwar Sadat's an African, Mubarak's an African, Nelson Mandela's an African. That's like saying, me putting down, race, I put down American. Well, there's black Americans, brown Americans, yellow Americans, white Americans. You can't say it. Race is down to, and then, of course, guys like Corsi and these guys, they search 5 years before, 5 years after. They can't find another birth certificate that says African for a black kid.
Well, as late as 2002, I did some research and found that the Hawaii Health Department was using black.
Sure.
So even in 2002, African was not their choice.
Of course not. But Jimmy down the hall, who is used to saying African American, Jimmy writes in African, and the file can be, it's layered. I mean, and it has all kinds of numbers problems where it's out of sequence and all these kinds of things. And I remember, I mean, they're doing handsprings at the old Rocky Mountain News because this this document drops. And
Yeah.
and I don't think Curley brought anything. I think she was in the law
No,
firm.
and you know what happened along that same line? I made a public records request for Loretta Fuddy's calendar and appointment schedule for a whole year and a half, but it covered April 25th, 2011. And it's very interesting. I got back a response that there are no such records in response to my request. And so I wrote Janice Okubo back at the Hawaii Health Department. I said, what do you mean? Are you telling me that the director of the Hawaii Health Department kept no calendar, no appointment schedule, no phone records related to her work? And she came back and answered no.
It is a mystery, as Winston Churchill said, in an enigma and a riddle. I'm going to say good morning and thank you. We put your work up on our website.
Oh, thank you.
We will have you back. But I think
thank you very much. And
again,
people can go check out birtherreport.com and obamasfakeid.com to get more info.
I wear that jacket, Birther, proudly.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the best you got, you ain't got enough. And
no.
what's fascinating to me is the critics have shut up. But, you know, I used to ask them to come on a radio show, and they would, one of two, they would either not return my calls or this one, I'm not coming on your hate show.
Yeah. Well, we know what that's all about. It's designed to just shut you up and for the truth to not come out. But I thank you for speaking the truth, and I appreciate your radio station for allowing you to do it.
Talk to you real soon. Thanks, pal.
Right.
All right, thank you.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.